The emotional breakdowns, scene-by-scene explanations, and fan-favourite scenes from Heartland are all included in today's video, and I am beyond thrilled to share them with you. If you're new here, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, because we're diving deep into the most anticipated episode yet, Ty Borden's grand return in Heartland Season 19, Episode 1. Yes, that is what I said. After seasons of longing, wondering, and hoping, Ty is back, and it's everything we ever imagined. Grab your tissues, because this is going to be an emotional roller coaster filled with heartfelt reunions, soul-stirring conversations, and the kind of storytelling that only Heartland can deliver. Stay with us until the very end as we break down every emotional beat, every character's reaction, and what this return means for Amy, Lindy, and the entire Heartland family. Let's get going. Heartland Season 19, Episode 1 opens with a tone of quiet tension and calm. Life at the ranch seems to be moving forward. Amy is working with horses again, Lindy is growing fast, and Jack, Lou, and Tim are all navigating the rhythms of everyday ranch life. But from the very first few scenes, there's something different in the air, a subtle feeling that something big is coming. The writers do an incredible job of building suspense with small clues. Amy notices a familiar horse watching from a distance. Lou receives a mysterious phone call but doesn't say who it was from. Jack finds an old photo of Ty that seems to have been moved. These aren't loud signals. They're quiet emotional beats that only longtime fans of the show would recognize as foreshadowing. And then it happens, the unexpected moment. Ty Borden is back. Not in a dream, not in a flashback, but in the flesh. He steps onto the land he once called home, with the Rocky Mountains behind him, and years of distance, pain, and mystery etched into his face. The episode makes it clear this isn't the same Ty we said goodbye to years ago. He's weathered, wiser, and deeply emotional. His return is not just physical, it's spiritual. It concerns healing. For Amy, Ty's return is nothing short of a storm of emotion. The first time she sees him, she's frozen. She's grooming Spartan when she hears a voice. His voice. She stops using her hands. Her breath catches. She turns around slowly, as if afraid she's dreaming. And there he is. Ty standing just a few feet away, wearing that familiar worn jacket, looking at her like he never left. For a few seconds, they just stare at each other. No words, just silence filled with years of love, pain, and longing. Then Amy whispers, "Ty!" and the sound of his name breaks something in her. She walks toward him and sheds a few tears. But she doesn't run. She's cautious, still unsure if this is real. We witness the final collapse of the wall Amy has constructed around herself when they finally touch, when Amy's hands rest on Ty's chest and she feels his heartbeat. He holds her tightly and whispers, "I'm here, Amy," as she sobs into his arms. "I'm here." This scene is powerful not because of what is said, but because of the silence and emotion. It's everything we've waited for, and it's just the beginning of a long journey ahead. The moment Lindy saw Ty standing in the Heartland barn, the world seemed to freeze around her. Her tiny boots paused mid-step on the dusty floor, and her wide eyes locked on the man before her. She didn't say a word at first, not because she was unsure, but because something deep in her heart recognized him before her mind could process the miracle. Her small hand clutched the side of the doorframe as if steadying herself. She tilted her head, just like Amy does when she's trying to read a horse's feelings. Then, with a whisper that felt louder than thunder in the silence, she said, "Daddy." The way that word escaped her lips, soft, unsure, but filled with a soul-deep yearning, cut through everyone in the room. It wasn't a question, it was a reunion years in the making. When Ty slowly knelt down, his arms open but still afraid of breaking the moment, Lindy ran into them with all the strength her little heart could muster. Her innocent embrace, pure unfiltered love from a child who had only known her father through stories, pictures and bedtime wishes, carried more power than any dramatic scene ever could. She didn't need to understand the complexities of life and death, the trauma or the healing. All she needed was to hold him, to feel him. And when she looked up into his tear-filled eyes and said, "Mommy said you'd always watch over me, but now you're here for real," it was as if every tear shed in the years since Ty's departure had found purpose. Her innocent, unwavering belief in love had brought him home. In that moment, it was Lindy, the child born from their love, who unknowingly held the family together. Watching Ty Borden enter Heartland was like witnessing a ghost become flesh and blood for Jack Bartlett. It was a sweet miracle that was encased in years of hard-earned wisdom and heartbreak. Jack didn't rush forward or collapse under the weight of emotion. As if to confirm that Ty wasn't just a distorted memory, he stood tall and silently, taking in every inch of Ty's familiar frame. His eyes glistened with unshed tears, but his voice remained steady, the voice of a man who's carried generations on his shoulders. "Well," he finally said, clearing his throat, "I thought I'd seen everything, but I guess life still has a few surprises left." That was Jack, always grounded. But beneath that weathered cowboy hat was a heart cracking open in the most vulnerable of ways. He approached Ty slowly, like he would an old friend who had returned from war, and embraced him with the strength of a man who rarely showed emotion. But when he did, it meant everything. Jack didn't ask how or why Ty was back. He simply said, "You were always family." And family never leaves, not really. Later, in private, Jack would light a fire in the old stone hearth and sit beside Ty in the quiet, letting the flames speak the unspoken. His way of dealing with Ty's return wasn't with grand declarations or dramatic tears. With presence, it was. With legacy. With unwavering love for one another. He also simply stated, "They've been waiting," as he handed Ty an old photograph of Amy and Lindy that he had kept in his wallet since the funeral. "Don't waste a second." Lou stood frozen when she first saw Ty step onto the porch of the Heartland Ranch, her breath catching in her throat like the wind had been knocked out of her. Her instinct was to protect Amy, to protect Lindy, to demand answers, to question the impossible. But the raw emotion that was rising in her chest fought off all those impulses. She had mourned him. She had helped her sister mourn him. She had built new layers of life over the grief, each one fragile but necessary. And now here he was, not a dream or a ghost, but a breathing, broken man. "Ty?" she asked, her voice trembling, unsure if she was angry, relieved, or simply stunned. As she walked towards him, her arms folded tightly across her chest like armor, her eyes betrayed her, glistening with tears that refused to be held back. "You have no idea what Amy went through, what Lindy went through, what we all went through," she said with a trembling voice. But beneath that there was something else, hope that this return meant healing, hope that maybe, just maybe, their family could find peace. Lou's response was a whirlwind of feelings, fierce, protective, perplexed, and ultimately loving. When Ty gently responded, "I know, Lou," and "I'm sorry, more than I can say," the walls began to crack. She didn't forgive him instantly. The agony never left her mind. However, she briefly took his hand and whispered, "If you're really back, then prove it. Be there for Lindy and Amy." Her reaction showed the strength of a sister, a mother, and a woman who has seen heartbreak and still chooses hope. Georgie had changed so much since Ty's passing. She had grown into a young woman with purpose, independence, and a fierce sense of justice, traits Ty himself had helped instill in her. So when she returned to Heartland to find Ty standing in the yard, it wasn't tears or gasps that defined her reaction. It was silence. Silence that penetrates deeply. She dismounted from Phoenix slowly, almost cautiously, her gaze fixed on the man who had once been like a big brother, a mentor, a hero. "Are you the one?" she asked quietly, almost as if afraid to believe it. When Ty turned and their eyes met, the unspoken bond they had developed over shared struggles and sincere conversations years ago was immediately rekindled. Georgie walked instead of running to him. Strong, grounded, yet emotionally fragile in that moment. And when she reached him, she simply wrapped her arms around his torso and held him, saying softly, "You helped me believe in myself. And when you were gone, I had to keep believing alone. But now, I'm glad you're here." Her growth was evident in her maturity, her calm, her inner strength. She didn't demand answers, she offered him grace. She understood that life was complicated and pain didn't always come with explanations. Georgie's response wasn't about her pain, it was about Ty's return representing another chance. Not to relive the past, but to rebuild from the strength of who they'd all become. Tim's reaction was everything you'd expect. At first, tough, guarded, suspicious. The kind of reaction from a man who's lost too much and built emotional walls tall enough to withstand anything. Or so he thought. When Ty returned, Tim didn't welcome him with open arms. Instead, he stood in the doorway of the barn, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. "You've got some nerve showing up here," he growled, his voice more gravel than warmth. "After all this time." Tim's heart was breaking beneath that tough exterior, though. Ty had been like a son to him, a stubborn, strong, worthy man who'd earned his respect. And losing him had shattered Tim in ways he never admitted. Therefore, now that Ty is back, Tim's rage is not hatred. It was grief resurfacing, tangled with guilt, confusion, and suppressed joy. Amy cried herself to sleep for months. Lindy asked where her dad was every day, and I had to be strong, Tim continued, but his voice cracked mid-sentence. Then came the moment, raw and unexpected, when he stepped forward, pulled Ty into a rough, crushing hug and whispered, "Don't ever do that again, son. No more harsh language, no more pride, just a father figure who had lost someone he loved and now, miraculously, had him back." It was one of Tim's most vulnerable moments, and it showed us that even the hardest hearts can break and be made whole again. A Heartland sunset's soft golden light illuminated the quiet barn. Like unspoken memories, suspended dust motes moved through the air. Ty was leaning against the post where they had carved their initials at one end of the barn, while Amy slowly moved toward him, each step filled with years of love, pain, and unanswered questions. Silence persisted, not awkward but reverent, when she finally stopped a few feet away. "I used to come here every evening," she said softly, "just to feel you." Ty looked up, tears in his eyes. "I never wanted to leave," he whispered. "Not really, not ever." Amy's voice cracked as she replied, "But you did. You left me, Ty. You left Lindy. You left all of us." He also didn't try to justify anything for the first time. He stepped forward, placed his hand over hers and said, "I know. And ever since, I've thought back on that moment. If I could go back and undo everything." But Amy gently cut him off, her eyes beaming with both love and sorrow at the same time. "You're here now. That must have some significance." And then she reached up, touched his face, and let her hand linger. "Do you still love me?" she asked, almost in a whisper. Ty didn't hesitate. "I never stopped, not for 1 second." They embraced as two souls who had been torn apart by fate and were now choosing each other again, despite the scars, rather than as a young couple. Amy rested her head against his chest, tears falling freely, and said, "If we have another chance, let's make it count, for us, for Lindy." Ty kissed her forehead and replied, "No more running. I'm here. Additionally, I will not leave." In that barn, surrounded by echoes of their past, Ty and Amy began to write a new chapter, one born not just of love, but of pain, forgiveness, and unshakable hope. And that wraps up our emotional journey through Ty Borden's incredible return in Heartland Season 19, Episode 1. What an effective way to kick off a new season. From Amy's emotional breakdown to Lindy's innocent joy, from Jack's wisdom to Tim's reluctant acceptance, every moment was rich with feeling and meaning. But the scene that will live in our hearts forever is that quiet, intimate reunion between Ty and Amy. After all the heartbreak, all the pain, they found their way back to each other. And that, my friends, is what Heartland is all about. So now I want to hear from you. What was your favourite scene from this episode? Were you shocked by Ty's return? How do you think the story will move forward from here? Let me know all your thoughts and emotions in the comments below. And if you loved this breakdown, please like this video, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss an update. I'll see you next time for more Heartland stories that move the soul and stir the heart. Until then, stay strong, ride free, and always believe in second chances.